It's not that often that you get to work with a director who has the technical knowledge and skills, but also can give you really fantastic notes and pull out moments in the scene that you hadn't thought of. I think for me, Lucy is such a complex character. Yes, she's innocent and she's naive at the start, but she's also not to be underestimated. And for me, there was a crucial moment where Lucy becomes aware of her privilege, going up to the surface for the first time, realizing everything she's ever believed is wrong, right? Having that reality just ripped away from her. And Jonah gave me the most amazing note that I think about all the time. And it was so simple. He said, when you're saying that speech about how you're going to rebuild America to this woman on the surface, just look around you. And it like totally changed the entire trajectory of my character for the season. I still think about that however many, 2 years later, 3 years later. Yeah, big fan of Jonah.
Yeah, he's a wonderful artist. I always think that the best artists in the world are really the best question askers. It's not even about answering those questions. It's about asking them and putting them out into the room. I remember doing an interrogation scene for Maximus early in episode 1, and the questions about what do we imagine that sound is of this suit walking behind me, and we just went on this real rant of question asking together, and then we started rolling the film camera.
So tell us about the journey of Fallout and how both of you came to it.
Well, I mean, it started with Todd Howard talking to Jonah, and then Jonah talking to Geneva. And in the great human centipede of this show, I'm at the very end, happily, because you gotta understand, it's a great big sci-fi. Hiring the writer of Captain Marvel makes absolute sense. Geneva's idea to bring me aboard as the writer of the celery sketch from Portlandia is not the most logical thing. And I don't ever want to know how many fights Geneva had to get me, to bring me on to the show.
There were no fights.
Well, that's very kind of you, I know. But hiring writers is like casting. You're sort of painting with people, and it was Geneva's idea to sort of bring me in, and yeah, I'm gonna owe this lady for the rest of my life, I think.
Well, I just thought Graham was the most necessary component of all this to me, because the games are obviously some of the greatest video games of all time. But I think what makes them unique within the pantheon of great video games is the tone. The Fallout games had this amazing mix of violence and weird humor, and I knew I wasn't going to bring the level of humor that the show needed, so that was Graham, and we've been longtime friends, so I was just like, thank God it's here when we were offered this project, because it's the perfect thing for us to join forces on.
But if it was just me, Lucy would have never left the vault, and because we wouldn't have the budget for the
It's
vault.
kind of true.
Yeah.
Thank you, Geneva. Appreciate that.
So Howard, tell us about working with the original game developers to create the production design.
What's interesting about that question is that I actually didn't. It was very generously allowed to approach the game with the way I was going to see it. And I learned, I'm not a gamer, and the way I learned was to go on YouTube, and I watched the fans with these incredible videos they put together and histories and stuff. And the more I looked at it, the more I began to like the game. I just liked it. And so when I did my initial concepts, we were in a meeting with Todd Howard. They were sitting there going, "Oh, you're doing the game." And I said, "Yes, because I really like this game." And I said, the big challenge is there's so much detail, it's so big and so epic and so world building. Now we have to actually figure out how to do it. And so, but it was really, the learning the history behind all the stories, and how everything's interconnected, and the humor of it all, because I've worked with Jonah before, and I'm very much not comedy, very post-apocalyptic things that didn't have the kind of humor. And so it was like, I remember just trying to do wallpapers in the vault, and the first ones you'll see are kind of dark. And then later on, they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's because we got more and more comfortable in figuring out the style of the show and watching the actors and sort of responding to all of that. The blessing was that no one ever told me what to do. They just wanted to know, what do you think it looks like? And I did, and everybody did it, which was exciting. So it was a great group and huge, it's like, hey, let's go to Africa to shoot the apocalyptic, Santa Monica. And, and it happened, which was exciting. Yeah, we dragged him there, yes.
I don't even like to fly on planes. And I lived on an airplane for the last 3 years, so yeah. I got to know my Ativan, Razepam tolerances.
Walton, last question for you. How does it feel to play a guy with a nose right now?
I spend about, and I'm not exaggerating here, I spend about 4 minutes in the chair on White Lotus, and it is the greatest experience ever. It's just good to kind of have this. It's easier to breathe and all the rest of it. But I do miss him. I miss walking the wasteland with Ella and Aaron, and it was every single day. And what Howard created and what Jonah did. I mean, he's the kind of the secret and all of this, and we all know his career and all the things that he's written. He's a pretty serious guy, a pretty earnest guy, but the way in which he kind of captured the hyper stylized violence in this show and the tonality of jokes and everything that Geneva and Graham had written, it was just what an experience. I look at the people on the stage and I feel like I'm mourning over you right here. On stage with you guys, and I just miss you so much, and I can't wait to see you all very soon. Thank you for having us.
But seriously, you were in the makeup chair for what? Quite some hours for the Ghoul. How did that? Talk about just working with your makeup artist and how that informed your performance.
Well, it was extremely anxiety provoking, like from the very beginning. I knew that this was going to be an intense experience, being in that chair. I didn't understand, or I didn't take the time to really think about, because I don't know what I would have done, what my reaction would have been to how long it was going to take. We did 3 tests. And the first one was 5 hours. Every single one of those tests were 5 hours. And Jay Garber is the person that applied the pieces. It was designed by Vincent Van Dyke. We talked ad nauseum about how we wanted this to look and how I could communicate with the audience. And you could still see that it was me. And so Vincent, along with Jake for the practical application of the piece, just talked about how thin we could make it, so you could still see my facial expressions underneath. At one point, we talked about putting in eye contacts. Tried that and immediately said, no, that the eyes are the thing that your eyes make you human. And so we got off that. And it was, by the time we were ready to go, Geneva and Graham came over. We all looked at it one last time and said, okay, this is what we're going to go with. A couple of things I didn't take into consideration when we did this for the first day in New York. What was the heat? To be quite honest with you, it was 106 index, and we took this little Ferrari for a test ride and walked outside, and I immediately sat down on a log and said, "Oh my God, I'm getting too old for this shit." The sweat started pouring out of my eyes. And the one thing that I didn't take into consideration with all of these things kind of separating my lips, when I put in the retainers, the things that kind of cover these pearly white teeth, I couldn't speak. I couldn't get the words out. So, we got over all of that. And by the end of it, it took us about 1 hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours and 15 minutes in the chair every day, depending on how far we were into the movie that we were watching that morning. Wow. It was just a meditation, really. And yeah.
Prime Video's Fallout. Let's thank our guest, Goggins.